everything New Orleans Pelicans from a fan's perspective. 27 points, 5 rebounds. Welcome to Pelicans Flock Report, where I give you everything New Orleans Pelicans from a fan's perspective. I'm your host, D. Broussard. The Pelicans front office is on the clock. Big moves ahead. Now, of course, we've already seen some of these big moves as two of the assistant coaches won't be returning next season. A lot of the medical staff won't be returning next season. And I think we're starting to see the Joe Dumars era in effect. Now, obviously, we've always had questions about the medical staff. As you've seen, guys hurt. The timeline doesn't add up sometimes for some of these injuries. And, I feel like it was time to start looking into this medical staff. And I really feel like it's been time to start looking into the medical staff. And a lot of fans feel the same exact way. The medical staff has always been in question the last couple seasons. And Joe Dumars, I guess he looked into everything and he felt like it was time to move on from a lot of the employees of the medical staff and kind of rebuild this thing and get this thing back to where it needs to be. Because you have players that are missing a significant amount of time. And some of these injuries, the timeline on some of these injuries are a little bit longer than expected. Now, I myself kind of looked at a situation that took place this season, and I felt like that was a huge question mark for me. And the situation with DeJounte Murray recovering from his torn Achilles, deciding not to recover with the team doctors or the medical staff, deciding to go somewhere else to recover. I felt like that was a huge question mark or a red flag for me because it obviously showed that he didn't really have a whole lot of trust in the Pelicans medical staff. So to me, I felt like that was um, a red flag for me. Most guys or most players, they recover with the team doctors or the team medical staff, and him deciding to go somewhere else. I feel like it definitely showed that there's not a whole lot of trust in that medical staff that we had. So Joe Dumars moving on, trying to build a better medical staff. I felt like that was definitely a good move, and I felt like it was definitely time to go in that direction because we want guys to be on the basketball court and healthy. And of course, as you know, that's how we win. We win with guys being available and guys being on the basketball court, not in street clothes. Now, at this point, for the Pelicans organization, I feel like the patience era is over. I feel like we are developing our young talent. I feel like Joe Dumars deserves an A+ once again for his draft this last season, drafting Jeremiah Fears, drafting Derek Queen. Both of those guys had really good years. They both look like they're going to be superstars in the league. Michael Peavy was definitely a good draft pick. I feel like Michael Peavy is going to be more of a complimentary player, kind of like a Josh Hart. He reminds me a lot of Josh Hart, to be honest. Just the way that he defends, his aggressiveness, his athleticism. And, of course, we know he's going to have to work on that jump shot, which I feel like he'll do during the offseason and become a better shooter. In the last couple games of the season, I felt like Peavy was starting to look real good from behind the arc. He was starting to knock some shots down. So we definitely see some developing on his end. And it's only going to continue to grow. Obviously, Eve Messi is still developing. I think, to my knowledge, Eve has only been playing basketball for like 5 years. So he's still fresh, still raw. But I feel like once he develops, he's going to be a really good player. And his upside is and his ceiling is very, very high. I had a video where I said that Eve Misi might be him. Um, it just hasn't shown yet. And I still feel the same way. I feel really, really confident in Eve Misi. I think he has a lot of athleticism and, he's only going to get better. Carlo Makovic, another guy who I really like his game. I really like the way he plays. He's a good, I'm not going to say good, but he's developing his 3-point shot. He's really athletic. We've seen him catch the 360 alley-oop this season, you know, um, putting guys ball on the glass, you know. So Carlo Makovic is another guy that I'm going to be looking forward to. Now, Carlo, I think he is coming up to his contract year this offseason. So I think the Pelicans have an option to pick up his contract this offseason. So hopefully they pick up his contract because I really like Carlo Makovic. I really think he can be a really good player, a really good piece of this team, most definitely. So I feel like the patience era for the Pelicans is over. Like it's time to win. We have some good pieces. We're gonna have to move some pieces around, of course, because obviously this current roster in full didn't really work out. So, you're gonna have to move a few pieces here and there, but I feel like that young core, we definitely we have some good pieces. Now, also, like I always say, everything starts with Zion, and I feel like the Zion window this season is being tested. Obviously, we know that Zion has always been elite when he's available. The biggest thing with Zion has always been availability, and that's been the biggest concern. So, with that being said, I feel the front office must decide whether to double down on Zion, which is keeping him around and still being the cornerstone, the franchise player. Obviously, if we go back to Joe Dumars' press conference, he said that he had no intention on trading Zion Williamson. Obviously, like I said, in my opinion, you know, as far as I know, the front office never really discussed internal decisions with the media. So I feel like trading Zion may still be on the table, even though he said we have no plans. But I feel like if the right move comes about, that's going to give us draft capital, maybe add some more shooting to the team, I think it's a possibility that Zion could be moved. And I feel like also the front office have to decide, um, you know, the long term alternatives. Do we want to stick with him or, you know, does it look better for us as a team long term without Zion Williamson? And that's something that the Pelicans front office are definitely going to have to decide. And also to me, the core isn't proven. This current core that we have right now, guys, we still aren't proven. We saw flashes, but not many results. No deep playoff run. We didn't make the playoffs with this core. Now, obviously, DeJounte Murray not being healthy most of the season played a major part. I felt like if DeJounte Murray had would have been healthy at the start of the season, I felt like the season may have been a lot better than what it was, but that didn't happen. But I felt like when DeJounte Murray came back, we started to see flashes from this team and from this core. But obviously, we didn't make the playoffs or the play in. So I feel like this core still isn't proven. Um, of course, inconsistent chemistry. That was a huge problem throughout the season. Inconsistent chemistry. We had double digits in turnovers and we just were real inconsistent throughout the season. Even with DeJounte Murray back, we still showed signs of inconsistency, and the fit of these players are still in question. Do these guys all fit together? And I feel like we're going through the same kind of thing as the Orlando Magic, as I spoke about this before, where you have a guy that likes to play around the rim. And with Paulo, I mean, I think he's more of 15-footer jump shot shooter. He doesn't really shoot the three ball that well, but he likes to play around the rim, kind of like Zion, and finding the right pieces to fit around that type of player in today's NBA can be a difficult task because you have to have shooting. You definitely have to have shooting. And that can be a difficult task because most teams are looking for the same thing in the NBA because shooting is a big deal in today's NBA. Like every team has to have shooting. So I feel like the Orlando Magic are kind of going through the same type of situation where, they're trying to find guys that fit along with their star player as well as the Pelicans. They're trying to find the right pieces and fit along with a player like Zion Williamson. So I feel like the fit is still a huge question. Does this team or these guys that we have around Zion currently actually fit with a player like Zion? Also, we have roster construction issues. Um, we have, of course, like I said, inconsistent shooting. I felt like this season with the Pelicans, I didn't really know what team was going to show up each and every game. We had games where, we were really hot from behind the arc. And then we had games where we went 5 for 35 from behind the arc. So inconsistent shooting is still a problem with this team. And also defensive lapses, poor closeouts on the 3-point line, no rim protection at times, no no good perimeter defense at times, no inside presence, of course, at times, because we still kind of trying to figure out the center situation. Obviously, we have Eve playing the center sometimes. We have Carlo playing the center at times. Uh, Derek Queen played the center at times. We saw uh, DeAndre Jordan play a couple games. Obviously, the Kevon Looney thing didn't really work out. We brought him in, and he was a little bit slower than what we expected, especially running James Borrego's high-paced offense. Kevon, he just didn't really fit. I like Kevon Looney as a rebounder, paint presence, but obviously, he just didn't fit into James Borrego's system, and it just didn't work out. So defensive lapses were definitely a huge problem for us this season. And speaking of James Borrego, coaching and system. I always talk about coaching, how important coaches are. And this front office, I feel like they're going to have to get this coaching decision right. Like they have to nail this coaching decision. Obviously, Billy Donovan stepped away from the Chicago Bulls this week. I feel like Billy Donovan would be a really good coach for the Pelicans to maybe give a look, take a look and see if he still wants to coach or if he's going to retire, if he's going to go or if he's going to go back to coaching college. We really don't know what Billy Donovan wants to do going forward, but I feel like he's definitely a candidate. I feel like he's a guy that the Pelicans should definitely look at as possibly becoming the next head coach because Billy Donovan, we saw that he's a really good coach, legendary coach, won multiple college championships over at Florida. He did a great job with the Chicago Bulls. Um, and when he had um, that full core with Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, that team at that time, they were looking really, really good under Billy Donovan. So I feel like the Pelican situation would be a good place for Billy Donovan because we have good pieces in place. We have a core. The core is still they still aren't proven yet, but we have talent. So I feel like the Pelicans would be a good place for Billy Donovan. Also, uh, um, Jamal Mosley. I feel like this would be a good spot for Jamal Mosley as well if the Orlando Magic decide to move on from Jamal Mosley. I feel like Jamal Mosley would be a good coach for the Pelicans because I actually noticed how good of a coach Jamal Mosley has been for the Magic the last couple of years because they've made the playoffs the last couple of years. Now, obviously, they're in the bottom of the seeding, but they're still making the playoffs. And even with the situation, as I spoke about earlier, with them still trying to find guys that fit their star player, they're still making the playoffs. Now, obviously, the East and the Western Conference are two totally different conferences when it comes to talent. But hey, man, the playoffs are the playoffs, and the guy continues to push his team to the playoffs for the last couple seasons. So I feel like Jamal Mosley would definitely be a good candidate for the Pelicans. But if the Pelicans decide to keep James Borrego, of course, the development is gonna be there. You know, James Borrego likes to develop young guys, as we've seen this season. Him playing Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen a lot of minutes, helping them develop and get better. Um, Playing Eve Messi, helping him develop and get better. Carlo Makovic, all the guys that I named. You know, James, played those guys a lot. And the only thing with James is, the offense is going to be there, but the defense with James is still in question. Can James build a good defensive team? We know he can build good offensive teams, but can he build good defensive teams? That's still the question with James Borrego. And replacing him, I think the front office would be going with a win now approach by grabbing somebody like a Billy Donovan or a Jamal Mosley, like more proven head coaches these last couple years, would definitely send the Pelicans in a win now direction with grabbing those type of guys. Also, I feel pressure from the ownership and fans. There's a lot of pressure from ownership on the front office, and it's a lot of pressure from fans on the front office. And this is why I think you see these moves, these recent moves that's been made, because obviously there's pressure on the front office to build a winner. You know, Gail Benson, bringing in a guy like Joe Dumars, who's been around the league for years, worked in the league office, was a GM, championship winning GM, and also championship player. I think that was the reason why Gail brought him in, because he believed that he would have the ability to turn the organization around. And I feel like it's a lot of pressure from ownership because the fans are tired of mediocrity. They're tired of the team not winning, underperforming, not making the playoffs. Just the mediocrity that has been these last couple seasons. I feel like all the fans are tired. So that definitely uh puts a lot of pressure on ownership to deliver, because obviously, when you keep losing and such, you know, the fans eventually get frustrated and they stop supporting the team, and the ownership, they don't make money. So, it's business at the end of the day. So I definitely feel like the ownership is putting this front office under a lot of pressure to deliver. And I think, they want results. They want results. So it's definitely a lot of pressure. Now, um, and I feel like also the fans are tired of potential. They're tired of, we're gonna potentially be good. We're gonna potentially make the playoffs. You know, I think we all tired. So this front office, man, with Joe Dumars, they definitely have to get it right. And I feel like they will. I've said that numerous times. I feel like Joe Dumars he's gonna get this thing right. I believe in him. I think he has the knowledge to be able to build a team. And I think he's gonna do that. And we're gonna see that, throughout the off season. We're gonna see a lot of signs. I feel like I said earlier, he definitely has an A+ in my opinion, as far as his drafting. Drafting the young guys. You know, uh, reconstructing the medical staff, the coaching staff. So, those, in my opinion, are all those decisions, in my opinion, are all good signs when it comes to building an organization and turning the organization around and getting the organization trending in the right direction to become a winning organization. So, yeah, man. So we'll see, man. I think it's gonna be some more moves that's gonna be made. Obviously, I think it's gonna be some roster changes this season, this off season. I mean, I feel like a lot of guys won't be returning. those pieces. I don't know who it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to seeing who it's gonna be. But I feel like we're definitely gonna move on from some pieces because we definitely need more shooting. As I said before, we definitely have to find a defensive anchor down low that can give us some rim protection, more rebounding, more paint defending. You know, we have to get that right, man. So, and also, as I said as well, the coaching decision is going to be key. We're going to have to find the right coach. We can't continue to keep firing and hiring coaches because we'll never build the type of organization that we want to build if we keep on firing and hiring coaches. Like, it'll never happen. And I think, as I said before, we see that with a team like the Sacramento Kings, who have been down that road these last couple years, firing and hiring coaches, and they just never seem to make the playoffs, never seem to compete every season. And a lot of it, I feel, is because they don't have a stable voice in the locker room. It's always a new coach. So I definitely don't want that to be us. So Joe Dumars, front office, man, y'all got to get this right. Definitely got to find the right coach. Coaching matters, man. I'm going to keep saying that. Coaching matters in any sport. You have to have the right coach. Most definitely. So that's it for me, man. Like always, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, the all new Pelicans Flock Report, where I give you everything New Orleans Pelicans from a fan's perspective. I'm your host, D. Broussard. Make sure y'all check out the channel. Turn on y'all notifications, man. I'm gonna continue to drop videos as long as y'all continue to subscribe. And shout out to everybody that's already subscribed, man. I really appreciate y'all out there, man. And until next time, I'm out, man. Pelicans Flock Report.